You have Tua Tagovailoa jetting all the way up to number 3 for the Lions. What was your logic in putting him up there?
Well, with Stafford's situation, we'll see how that plays out even moving forward, too. It could be the heir apparent or obviously a trade possibility there for somebody moving up to get ahead of Miami, which is that pivotal spot at number 5, whether it's the Giants or whether it's the Detroit Lions. Get up there and guarantee the acquisition of the quarterback that you want. And obviously, we talk about medical for Tua being important. Justin Herbert, some mixed opinion on him coming out of Oregon. So we'll see which teams want to make that bold move if they, in fact, want to move up into that top 3 spot. If the Lions, in fact, want to move down, if they don't feel that they want to take the quarterback, that pick, I think, will have value.
Again, for Mel Kiper, his mock 2.0 draft has Joe Burrow going 1 to Cincinnati, Chase Young going 2 to Washington, Tua Tagovailoa going 3 to Detroit, Jeff Okudah, the cornerback from Ohio State, going 4 to the Giants, and Justin Herbert, quarterback from Oregon, going number 5 to Miami. You also have a 4th quarterback, Jacob Eason, going number 23 to New England, and we always know that value of that position, Mel. So if there's going to be another one that maybe jumps into the first round by trade or someone trading back something, who would that next one be?
That would be, Jacob Eason. I think you look at it, Mike, and you think about Jordan Love from Utah State. I went with Eason, and I think when you talk to people in the league, and that's what this is all about. It's not about anything other than that. Eason seems to be the consensus 4th quarterback ahead of Jordan Love. Like I say, from Utah State, Eason has that big-time arm, arguably the best arm of any quarterback in this draft. He's 6'5", 6'6". He's 235 pounds. And keep in mind, the Washington Huskies had Oregon beat, had Utah beat. Looked like in the 4th quarter, let those leads slip away. Had 4 of their 5 losses by 6 points or less. Had Eason been a little sharper in those games, particularly late, and instead of being a little inconsistent, then maybe he would have been a little higher than that. But I think when you look at New England at 23, could a team maybe jump into that 23 to 32 spot, as we see in Thursday night a lot on night 1, to get a quarterback like Eason, who has that quality arm strength and size and imposing physical ability from that standpoint. Had he gone back for another year, you might be looking at a top 15 pick. And people feel like, hey, another season, we wouldn't have been able to see him available in the late first round. Now he's there, and we can grab him, whether we're the Patriots or somebody wanting to jump in there via a trade.
Mel, I know you mentioned that Tua moving up had a lot to do with Detroit, but how much credence, as you hear from people around the league, are you giving to some of the rumors popping up that Miami, even if Tua was available, might think of passing on him in favor of Justin Herbert?
It's really so early, like in this process, where people to make definitive comments, and you throw a lot of things out there now because Miami's at 5, they're not at 1. They can't guarantee anything. So you want to throw out comments. You don't want to say, I'm defined that I'm taking this guy. Nobody can know that right now because the medical was so early in the process. We're in February, late April, a lot to be determined between now and then with those 3 lower extremity injuries. So nobody can speak in defined, I know for sure terms in terms of Tua. You just can't do it. It's all idle speculation. So anything now is way premature, and we'll have to see how it plays out. But if the medical is positive, then you're talking about a guaranteed top 5 pick, maybe in that 3rd spot for Tua. If it's obviously questionable, then he falls a bit. But right now, we're way early in terms of the medical. We have not finalized that. Nobody in the league has finalized that yet by any stretch of the imagination.
ESPN NFL Draft Insider Mel Kiper Jr. joining us. Check out the First Draft podcast with Mel and Todd McShay wherever you get your podcast. A new mock draft is out there at ESPN.com as we speak. One of the positions everybody has their eyes on this year, Mel, is wide receiver. Now, this is actually even going to play into the free agent market, I believe, because the draft class is so deep at wide receiver, it'll affect how teams acquire players. So you've got CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy as your top 2 wide receivers off the board. What do you see as the difference between those 2 players?
Very little separation there with those 2. There's kind of mixed opinion on who's going to be the first receiver taken. Lamb was more versatile in terms of slot and outside. Production pretty equal in both of those areas. Jeudy, I think, is a guy that when he comes into the league, he'll be, I think, ready for that role. The Jets and the Raiders certainly are 2 teams that could opt for receivers. And T. Higgins, who's 6'4". It's going to be interesting. We're going to be at the Combine coming up next week. And T. Higgins, the 40 time will be watched very closely because that will determine whether he's around the Eagles pick or whether he moves up just a bit. And certainly Henry Ruggs III, I have going to Buffalo. What a target down the field he would be for Josh Allen. Is he run that 4.25 like everybody expects? If he does, he'll be there for Buffalo. Maybe he goes a little higher than that. So I think it's going to be interesting. Jordan Jefferson, LSU. I have the Green Bay. His 40 time is going to be critical for him as well. So I think a lot of this will separate and play out once we understand what happens and get the final results in terms of speed from the Combine.
Chase Young, is the shine off that a little bit for what he's done as a pass rusher?
Mike's a good point. I said if he would have dominated in those last 3 games, you're talking about a guy probably would have been in the discussion to be the number 1 pick. It would have made it harder for Cincinnati to say we're clearly taking the quarterback. There's no question here to pass on a guy who is the next Julius Peppers, the next Myles Garrett, the next Khalil Mack, that next great Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa type player. We don't know that right now as much as we did earlier because of those final games. Now, was he holding back a bit? You know, worrying about injury, coming back after the suspension, what played into it. He's still going to be a high pick, 2nd pick overall, guaranteed to Washington. But I think had he had a couple sacks in those last couple games and dominated and been a wrecker of those 2 games, then I think, it would have been a little bit more difficult for Cincinnati. Since he wasn't, he was quiet, as you said, in those games, it makes it easier for Cincinnati to say, we're taking the quarterback. And the Redskins benefit from that, and they get Chase Young at number 2.
Talking to Mel Kiper Jr. as the new mock draft is out. Your top running back taken in this mock is DeAndre Swift out of Georgia to Miami. Obviously, a great career for him at Georgia. What kind of pro does he make in your mind?
A good one. Maybe great, we'll see, but he can run, catch, and block. And that versatility as a complete player is why he gets the edge over J.K. Dobbins and Jonathan Taylor. Dobbins, Ohio State, had a couple drops in the Clemson game. You think about Dobbins as a runner, though, and I said this the other day, is if it's 1985, he's a top 10 pick. He's a fierce runner. He's a great runner. But I think the fact that he has had some ball security issues as well, he's got to take care of that and catch the ball a little bit better. Jonathan Taylor, Wisconsin, great pure runner. He's had fumbling issues, and he's not an elite receiver as well. So to get to the question about Swift, because he's so complete, that's why he has the edge over those guys. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire from LSU moving up as well into that 2nd round mix. But right now, DeAndre Swift, Georgia, I think is the clear-cut number 1 running back. Maybe Miami late 1st round.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports and analysis, download the ESPN app, and for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.